All right. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back from lunch. If you want to grab some seats, we've got our next talk coming up here, which is going to be Beyond the Big Three, Mastering Oracle Cloud Security in a Multi-Cloud World. And before we get started, just want to give a thanks to one of our sponsors here for this talk, a silver sponsor, Sonrai Security. If you want to check out more information about them, they're out. You can see their booth out there outside of the conference room. And then for any questions that you might have for the speaker after the talk, we'll hold those till the end, and then I'll bring the microphone around and you can ask your questions. And please, without further ado, welcome Dani Kaganovitch for the Beyond the Big Three, Mastering Oracle Cloud Security in a Multi-Cloud World.
Hi. Nice being here today. This is my first time at this conference, attending and speaking. And actually, it's my first time speaking in the States. And honestly, in English, after I completed some achievements in Duolingo. No, not really. So, my name is Dani Kaganovitch. I'm a product manager at RockSteady, a native by RockSteady. And welcome to the Beyond the Big Three, Mastering Oracle Cloud Security in a Multi-Cloud World. Okay? This is important. And a little bit about RockSteady. We're a cloud security startup. We're dedicated to creating secure by design cloud environments. And we're doing this by leveraging native capabilities that are provided by the cloud providers. We decided to leverage these native capabilities because the providers provide the preventive mechanisms, the policies, and all this set of tools, free of charge, most of them, and they're built in and integrated into the provider services. And for the years as I worked for major providers like Google Cloud and Oracle, I've seen that these capabilities are not well utilized by customers. Okay, they have very strong guardrails, but customers won't use them good enough to set the guardrails very well for their environment. It's a bit scary for some customers to set very strong guardrails, but the second reason is the knowledge, okay? Not everyone knows how to do it. So we found the edge in these services that the cloud providers provide them, and the development of them happening as we speak, as now we're in touch with them. And here, it's very important in OCI. OCI is an integral part of our multi-cloud portfolio that we offer, because we hear more and more from customers that they are migrating or using OCI, and OCI, they don't know well how to set these guardrails in OCI. So in this presentation, we'll explore this topic. Specifically, we'll compare OCI to other providers, the tools that they provide. We're going to talk about why customers choose OCI. Two things you need to know about the cloud structure because it's important, and some key differences between OCI and other providers. And I'll walk you through two main use cases of preventive security that will demonstrate how to use these capabilities. So starting from OCI, we speak with Fortune 100 customers, and recently we noticed that there's increasing demand in OCI, like more and more customers are migrating, using OCI, and asking us to support OCI. So there are two main reasons from my experience why customers choose OCI. So first of all, it's like legacy Oracle customers. They already used Oracle products. And the second thing is cost. It's really hard to compete against Oracle when we talk about infrastructure costs. So this is one of the main reasons customer today, FinOps is very wide, important today in the last few years. So this is one of the main reasons why they choose them. So before we get into the details, just I need to know about the cloud structure. So when we compare the cloud structure of each provider, we have a few levels in the structure. For example, some of you may use AWS, so you have the top level, you have the organizations, and then you have the OU, the accounts. And in Azure, you have the tenant, then the management group, the subscription, the resource groups, and GCP organization, folder, project. In OCI, you just have two entities, which you need to know. The first one is tenancy, it's similar to organization. This is the first entity when you create the environment. And the second thing is the compartment. Now, a key difference here between OCI and the other providers that the compartment is both a container, like a second-level container, and it's a resource entity. So you can create resources in the compartment, like you create them in the account, in the resource group, and in the project. So this is very important because I'll show you the inheritance and why it's matter. So if we look a bit deeper into the compartments, the first, when we create a tenancy, when the tenancy is created, it's created with the root compartment. The root compartment is a main compartment every organization has. And what's important about the root compartment, it's always the top level, and you can use some of the services only in the root compartment. So these services are the preventive services that I will show you a bit later, and some more security services. And you can still create resources as you create resources in other compartments in the root compartment. A few differences between OCI and others. So I took 4 of them. The first one, I think, is one of the strongest. OCI has built its own data centers. They use their own hardwares. And when they build the data centers and the hypervisors, they did an off-box virtualization. They separated the network physically between each customer. So each customer enjoys his own network. It's not shared. It's on a NIC level. And I don't think that the other providers do that today. The second thing is that every data store in OCI is encrypted addressed by default, okay? So you don't need to do any settings like in other cloud providers to look which data stores you use and to set the encryption. It comes out of the box as default addressed, encrypted addressed. The third thing is granular IAM. So I tested this a few weeks ago with a load of different conditions when I put in a single IAM statement, and I didn't find any limitation, at least as I know. So it's very granular, very flexible, and it supports a lot of conditions that you can set per each statement. And the fourth thing is that while OCI doesn't have that much security services in OCI compared to others, most of them are free of charge, like they come free of charge out of the box. Some of them you can enable them, some of them you don't need to enable them. And the ones that are not free of charge, they're very cheap compared to others. So this is the differentiators between OCI and other providers. Keeping that in mind, now I'm going to show you 2 categories of preventive services in OCI. First of all, we're looking on an identity level, okay? So from the identity perspective, as you know, who can do what and where, classic IAM. So this is one thing we're going to use. And from a configuration standpoint, okay, so we look on the environment level. We can set governance rules. Governance rules are how I want to see my environment, like how it should be configured. It's similar to Azure. Azure has a service blueprints or GCP assured workloads, if we compare it. And there's another powerful service called security zones, which I will show you. Now, a little bit about the IAM policies, the structure. I changed the slide. I didn't change the slide a few hours ago. I just got an update from OCI. They have a limited availability. They started to support, as of recently, of deny statements, okay? It wasn't here, and I thought how I'm going to share this with you, but now, like, it should be really easier to manage the IAM statements with the deny statements, and it will be a bit similar to SCP from AWS. So the structure is very simple in OCI. Allow certain identity, a group, or a service to a verb, okay? We have read, we have inspect, use, and manage. So we can like get, list, use, and administer. Resource is a resource family or all resources in a certain scope. Scope is a compartment or a tenancy level. And the optional part is the where conditions. Now, one thing to mention here is that if you said a permission, I know that you have some issues reading it, so I'll read it. So I said a statement, allow group network admins to manage virtual network family, to manage virtual networks in a compartment prod. So this is a statement I said on a prod compartment, which is a sub-compartment. And once I said with the allow, allow any group to manage virtual network in tenancy, it will be inherited, and it will, and this condition, this other statement will not be relevant because I override it with the implicit allow. So what's changed is that they're going to support finally the deny, and you won't have this issue if you will use proper deny statements. Next thing you can use is a more centralized way to manage your organization is governance rules. This requires one action to do before you actually use it. You need to opt into an organization. It's something that manages multiple tenancies. It's a logical entity outside of the tenancy. So just to keep that in mind, I do encourage you to do this because governance rules are also powerful. And we have currently 3 actions you can do with governance rules. You can set allowed regions, like to opt in regions or to restrict regions. You can do quota policies for services, and the third part, you can set default tags for the environment. Now, I'm going to go over the first use case, and this is a very common use case, very powerful use case. We usually demonstrate it at RockSteady. Region management. So I have a simple intent, like imagine a CISO asks, I want to ensure that all cloud workloads stay within the approved regions only, okay? So this is the requirement. And behind this, the business objective is like, for example, data residency. I want to keep user data like Europe, GDPR requirement only in Europe. Or the second one can be to reduce the attack surface. You know, crypto mining, usually they go into regions which are not popular or not monitored, and they create this crypto mining virtual machines. And the third one is to reduce monitoring requirement for regions that I don't use. So this very simple use case covers a lot of security aspects. Now, if we translate this to technical terms in OCI, one, I can restrict opt-in regions because Oracle supports a model of subscribing to new regions. And second thing, I want to use only approved regions. So how are we going to implement that? One, we're starting with the governance rules. It's a very simple template. I used CLI commands to demonstrate this. So first of all, we're creating a list of the allowed regions only. Here I used US Ashburn 1 in OCI. And there's the long command that takes the template, applies the governance rules, and now this is what's supported. If I translate this to what really happens in OCI behind the scenes, the governance rules create a quota policy for these regions, okay? It sets actually quota policy if you look into the details. There's a limitation and problem with this because if you do a quota policy in OCI, for certain reason, users can still create some resources, like for example, object storage, but they will not be able to use it. They will not be able to upload files to the object storage. So if you're very sensitive to the reports you see, I would recommend using something else I will show you in a moment, but just keep that in mind. Now, it looks like this. There's a list of all the resource families, so you set 0 quotas for all the resource families, and then you unset for the excluded regions. So you can do it with a quota policy without using governance rules by yourself. The only difference with governance rules is that it adds some kind of a lock when you do it. So this is the difference between using a raw quota policy compared to governance rules OCI provide. The second method of applying regions, and I didn't have time, but I will show you how to do it with allow. So imagine you're doing this with deny, is to set conditions. This is a more flexible way to do it, but it's less centrally managed. So you add a condition to each IAM statement where you say request region, US Ashburn 1, and you do it for all the statements. Now, one of the problems with the IAM implicit allow statements is that, as I mentioned before, when you add a new condition, and when you add a new statement and you don't have a condition, it creates some kind of we call it drift, and you need to manage it. You need to add the conditions to the new statements created. So it's very important to track that if you choose this method. So to sum this up, so best practice is if you want centralized management, OCI, we recommend using governance rules or quota policies, which you prefer. The alternative is to use the IAM policies with the conditions. And the limitations, as I mentioned, is that you can still provision services with the quota policies, the governance rules, and with the IAM policies, someone can override your existing statements. Moving to the second use case, which is very interesting, and it's a use case that we were requested to support in a multi-cloud for some of our customers is to block direct inbound access. So imagine this simple intent. I want to restrict sensitive environments to internal-only network. I want to block public internet access to these compartments, okay? So here, the business objective behind this is I have a sensitive data which should not be shared, should not be internet accessible, and I want to block it. So in technical terms, I'm translating this to how we implement this in OCI. We have two things. One, we have a virtual network, a VCN in OCI, which will need to prevent the access, to block it. And we have the more challenging part is the managed services, because some of the managed services that you provision can communicate with some services in the virtual network. So the goal is to block like both of them. So how to do it? And here comes a very powerful tool called security zones. Now, security zones is a part of a service called CloudGuard in OCI. I don't really know why it's part of CloudGuard, but it is. And you need to enable CloudGuard. It's free of charge. It doesn't cost. I do encourage you to do this. CloudGuard is the CSPM service for OCI. And once you enable it, you can enjoy security zones. Now, the powerful thing about security zones is that it has built-in policies. Okay? You have like 76 built-in policies. Last month, they added some more policies. Now it's 76. And each policy translates to something very simple, like deny public subnets. Okay? I want to deny public subnets. I want to deny internet gateway. I want to deny public load balancer. And these are the virtual network attached parts that I want to deny. So once I have these IDs, I'm doing this with the CLI. I take all the policy that I'm interested in, and I create a recipe. And this recipe, I attach it to some entity. Remember, we still have this inheritance. So the entity that I attach it will be inherited downwards. So it's important. Now, this part covers, very simply, the virtual network. We can compare it to declarative because of its simplicity, declarative policies in Amazon for blocking a network. And if I want to add managed services, currently, here I have one example for public buckets. I add another policy for denying public buckets, and I update the existing recipe I created before, and now I support public buckets and virtual networks. Now, they don't support all the managed services. Here is the limitation, and my recommendation is to use a combination of different services that I mentioned to get the goal that you want to block the managed services. So here, for example, we use security zones. Now, if you want, for example, to block a public DNS zones, you don't want public DNS zones to be created, I encourage you to set a quota policy to 0 for public DNS zones in OCI in combination with security zones. And that's how you can limit more services in OCI, more managed services in OCI, in addition to the virtual network services. A few limitations, a few things that you need to remember, that the security zones, I do recommend to create them for new environments. You can create them for existing environments, but I recommend to do a fresh start. Some limitations, it's only one security zone per compartment once it's attached, and it has no native support for exclusion. So if you want to exclude something like CIDR blocks or something like that, you won't be able to do it. You can attach the security zone, detach it, put some new services, and then attach it again, and that's how you can do the workaround for the exclusions. And the policies, the 76 policies I mentioned, they're built in, they're not customizable. So this is another key limitation. I hope they will add more policies as we speak. So thanks for your time. I hope you learned something new here in this presentation. You're welcome to ask me questions now, and I encourage you to visit our booth. We sit near Track 1. We can show you some demo and some support for OCI and other providers you work with. So thank you very much. I enjoyed the session.
Thanks, Dani. Any questions in the room here for Dani? I can bring the microphone around. Okay, come. Oh. We'll go closest to further away.
Cool. Could you go back one slide real quick? So you were talking about one security zone per compartment, but you can have multiple layers of nested compartments. So can you have like a zone on the root compartment, a zone on the folder level compartment and then a zone on the final compartment, or is it just one zone?
Just one.
Just one. So if you put it on the root, it doesn't matter. You've done it for the entire tenancy.
Yeah, we do. If you need different requirements, I do recommend attaching different zones to different compartments.
One of the challenges we've been facing is how you actually get a picture of, for a given identity, given resource, who has access to it because of the way the policies are written. Have you done anything around solving that challenge?
Who have access? Yeah, that's
So like
a good.
if you've got multiple policies, right, that apply to a user, you can't centrally see these are the 5 policies that apply.
Yeah, we have this sort of visibility in our system, but in addition to the limited availability that they added today, as I said, for the deny statements, I also received a message that there's some kind of a simulator, which is a new one. So we'll test it and definitely share something about it.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? Nope. All right. Well, let's give another round of applause for Dani. We appreciate the talk here today.